Hello, welcome back to the lead pile. On this episode, we're going to be looking again at Commission Figurines MDF 6mm Napoleonic range. So as we showed in the last video, the unboxing, you get a nice variety of models being produced for the Napoleonic range by Commission Figurines. And what I've gone and done in this episode is put a bit of colour, a little bit of paint on a couple of models to basically show you what they look like when they're all painted up. So if you recall, we're talking about very small MDF cutouts here. Let's see if we can get that to focus in there. These are nice models with a lot of quite clear detail there. These are French line, quite nice to be honest with you, and cost effective. And at the back as well, the cutout is a lot more defined on the back, but it's quite rough, the finish, as a result, whereas the front's very smooth. Paint goes on really nicely there. That does come into effect when you come to paint it. Once you put your base coat on, paint goes on really smooth at the back, on the front, sorry, whereas at the back it could take a little bit more. You need quite a bit more water to get it in. So what I've done is I have base coated them. So that is a white base coat, a grey base coat and a black base coat. Now, although it doesn't look very clear, the black, it is apparent when you come to paint where the definition is, where the different zones on the model are, although in this camera and this light it's not that clear. But that goes with all 6mm. You're not going to paint up Golden Demon standard here with about 6 different highlights and dry brushes and everything. You're just really getting colour on to define the units. You're painting the units, not the model. So there we go, that's a white base coat, and we're going to use contrast paints on that model. A grey to kind of replicate that in-between zone, and the Halford's rattle can, which is a very cheap, under £10 rattle can for base coating. So that's mimicking that, and then obviously the black. So with the black, you're going to have basically paint on each area of the model, but leaving a trim to kind of add definition. The white's going to use contrast paints, so basically we're going to see if the pop of the contrast paints works better than leaving the line definition. And then in the middle, well, just for argument's sake, in the middle. So let's have a look. Now, important to say that these models were painted on with a watered down paints. These are Games Workshop paints. The reason being because the definition there is really quite narrow, and the cut there is very thin. It's not deep, it's a shallow engraving. I wasn't confident using the spray paint in case it really covered all that detail up, because I mean, this is wood at the end of the day. They are really nice pieces. They're not, I'm not going to say they're board game tokens, because I think when they're painted up they are going to look just as good as metal models. So let's have a look then. So first off, as we're talking French, here you go. That's some colour smacked on pretty quickly, I must say. And we've got the white, the grey and then the black. So the white was using contrast paints, all bar some items like the gold plate on the hat, which again, unlike metal models, there is no actual plate there to paint. You are just putting blobs of colour on. So what I've done is I have used contrast paints on here. We were using Games Workshop Talazar Blue, and I've gone over it with white Scar, which is just a normal layer paint, because it wasn't bold enough, the contrast paint white, and I think they look okay. I do think it could benefit from a little bit of Games Workshop's lighter red, maybe a layer colour. I'm not sure about the red there, don't know if it's enough. On the grey model, I've not done any highlight, so that's just Games Workshop's base corn red, and Games Workshop's Calidor Sky Blue. What I have done on the black model is I have put on an Evil Scuns red and a Teclis blue, I think, to kind of again make them pop a bit more. This was the quickest model to paint. You'd think contrast, but with contrast the problem is you don't want to go over areas you've already put paint on, because then it starts to go blotchy, which it has done on this, especially the white. Also with the black, you don't have to go right up to the edges, you leave the black strip, so that works out really well. If I point to it with this, might work more. Whereas with these ones I did have to actually go in and paint very thin black lines, which did take a bit of time to kind of get that definition going. You could go more to town with these, you could paint the more definition on the gun, for instance, because it does look a bit like someone's holding a big stick as opposed to a weapon. And then, you know, you do have these thick cuts on the side, if you look at them from the top down as well, because of the fact it is wood, but you know, it's quite good. And then at the back there, you know, a little bit more definition there. But they're really good, That took minutes to paint up. Granted, there are going to be hundreds to do, but you look at the difference on the left there from when it's wood, you still see the black undercoat on that model there, and then the finished paint job. Now, if you look at those from a distance on a table, they'll look fine, they'll look really good, especially when they've been flopped and based. And then here is the British stovepipe line as well. So again, the same thing, you've got on the left the black model, and then the white undercoat on the right. The challenging part about the British is the cross straps really does sell the red coat, but to get that definition, again, this model was fine because you already had the black, so I just put a thin white strip on it. On these two I had to paint black cross straps and then paint them over in white, and I had to paint a white base colour, which was the Celestra Grey base, before painting white over it, because otherwise it just didn't look good. It wasn't thick and clear. I'm not keen on the contrast painted model, if I'm honest with you. It doesn't pop enough compared to the black. I mean, it's a little bit more, but it's not significant enough for the amount of problems with the rest of the model. The white, the yellow and the white, like I say, having had to paint the black over this kind of went against the whole point of using contrast paints. It wasn't quicker because I had to paint black and then wait for the black to dry and then paint it grey and then paint the straps white again on top. And also the yellow and the red, they just didn't sit nicely together as contrast paints, I don't think. And then again, I still had to paint up the black between the legs, the black of the helmet, well, stovepipe hat really. There you go, there you see them kind of sitting square side on at an angle. Again, this is a much closer view than you're going to see on the table. They're going to be sitting quite far away from you. But I think they're really nice. Really nice, really quick, easy, effective colours. The red does pop more on this contrast paint, I'll admit. But I think the definition that you get with the shadowing on the black model is really nice. And he has had a red jacket which was base coated corn red and then Evil Sun's scarlet layer as well to make it pop more, and then I've given him a slight highlight on his trousers there. But you know, come on, I mean, if I bring up the Bacchus models as well, which are metal, you know, now the problem with these Bacchus models here is they've not been, these are the first Bacchus ones I painted. I gave them a nice black wash, and that's just muted everything, it's dulled everything down, which I don't think does it any favours, because okay, it might look really good and effective up close, with all the highlights not showing up really on this camera, but it doesn't pop. When you're talking about having 6mm models, the whole point is you have big armies, and you really want to get that difference in colour, and I think these ones, you know, they'll do the job. They do the job quite nicely. So the plan is get a unit painted up, get some flags on it, get it based, and then you can see for yourself. But considering a strip of these is about 20 pence, you can't go wrong with that. Let me know what you think in the comments.